If you are waiting for an immigrant visa from one of the 75 countries on the State Department's new high-risk list, your case may have just come to a complete standstill or heading to a standstill. Since January 21st, 2026, the government has indefinitely paused visa issuances for millions, affecting families from Brazil and Colombia to Egypt and Nigeria. But does that mean your green card dreams is over? Or is there a way that you can still get your green card? Today, I'm breaking down exactly what this 75 country pause means, who it actually affects, who is actually exempt, and the critical updates that can help you as you navigate your visa process. I'm Lilian Chukwurah. I'm a U.S. immigration attorney with Lilly Legal, and I help my clients get green cards and citizenships for themselves and their families using the U.S. immigration law system. And we're going to get right into it. First, let's talk about the why. Why is this even happening? According to the State Department, they are conducting a massive review of financial self-sufficiency. This is all about the public charge rule and seeing if people from these countries are more likely to become public charges in the U.S. It is important to note that even with this pause, the embassy is still going to process your application. The embassy is still going to schedule you for an interview and conduct your interview. But they are not going to issue you the visa until this review is done and the pause has ended for your country. Now, here's a crucial note. This only applies to people outside of the U.S. applying for immigrant visas to the U.S. Okay? If you are physically in the U.S. from these 75 countries, you may be subject to a travel ban, but not this 75 country pause. Now, let's talk about the two ways that you could potentially still get your green card, even if your country is on the list for this 75 country adjudication pause. The first is if you are already in the U.S. and your country is only subject to the 75 pause, then you may still qualify for adjustment of status. So if you are the spouse of a U.S. citizen and you are from, let's say, Colombia, that is on the 75 pause list, but you are physically in the U.S., you came in with a visa, you qualify to adjust your status in the U.S., you can still adjust your status in the U.S. and still be issued a green card in the U.S. Remember, I said that the 75 pause only affects immigrant visas outside of the U.S. So you can only apply for an immigrant visa at a U.S. embassy or consulate. So if you are physically in the U.S. and you qualify for adjustment of status, the 75 pause does not apply to you. Now, there is a big caveat. If you are from, let's say, Nigeria, it's different, right? Nigeria is not only part of the 75 country pause, it is also part of the 39 countries that are on the travel ban list. And if you watch my previous videos, you know that those countries that are on the travel ban pause are also on a USCIS pause on adjudication, which means even if you apply through USCIS for that adjustment of status, you still need to wait for USCIS to change their policy and basically lift the pause for your specific country. Okay, so there is a huge difference between being on the 75 country pause and being on the 39 countries that are on the travel ban list. Okay, 75 country pause only affects you if you are outside of the U.S. applying for an immigrant visa. But if your country is also on the 39 country travel ban, not only are you not able to get that visa at the embassy, you would also not be able to adjust your status in the U.S. until that pause is lifted. So you can apply for adjustment of status, but until USCIS or the U.S. government takes your country off the travel ban list, you would not be able to get approved for adjustment of status. So it is really, really important to know that there is that huge difference between the two. If you're in a preference category, so you're not an immediate relative of a U.S. citizen, remember, you need to be paying attention to the visa bulletin to know when your visa category is up. Remember, if you are not an immediate relative of a U.S. citizen, adjustment of status is not a given. You may need to remain in valid status until your priority date comes up. For February, USCIS is using the filing chart, not the final action date chart. So that's going to give you a sooner opportunity to apply for adjustment of status. So if you are under preference category and you qualify to adjust your status in the US, make sure that you are paying attention to the visa bulletin to know when that filing date for you comes up based on your priority date. The second way that you could potentially get out of this 75 country pause is if your physical presence in the US, if you getting that visa to the US will have a national interest to the US. So if there is a national interest exemption that you could potentially qualify for, this is the time to do that, okay? You want to make sure that you're going to your interview with documentation, with evidence of why you qualify for the national interest exemption. This is hard, okay? I don't want you to think that just because it says national interest, it's just anything would go. This is not a hardship exemption. All right, so a hardship exemption looks at how the pause and everything is going to affect you or your petitioner. That's not what this is asking for. This is not a hardship exemption. This is a national interest. So you're going to be looking to make an argument as to how you, the beneficiary of that visa coming to the US, is going to be in the US national interest. That's the argument you need to be making. And this argument may be easier in some situations than others. So for example, if the petitioner is in the military and the military is willing to basically say that it is in the U.S. national interest, that may be an easier process to get the embassy to issue that visa, regardless of the pause. The same thing goes for the 39 country pause, okay? That national interest exemption applies to that as well. So if you're in that situation, whether you're applying for a visa or applying for adjustment of status, naturalization in the US, that exemption can still be applied. You just need to make sure you have the documentation, you have the proof that you will actually have this national interest for the US, that it is in the US interest for you to get that visa, for you to get that green card, for you to get that naturalization, right? That is what you need to prove. And if you're able to prove that, the USCIS, the embassy officers, are able to then approve your visa, your green card, your naturalization, even with the pause, even with the travel ban in place. If you are interested in a video where I break down the national interest exemption in more detail, please feel free to let me know in the comments, okay? So that I know that you're interested in that video and I will make it in the future. I hope this has been helpful to you to understand what the 75 country pause actually is and what it's not, and who it affects and who it does not. Remember, this 75 country pause only affects people applying for immigrant visas at embassies. If you are applying for a visiting visa to the US, this 75 country pause does not affect you. This only affects immigrant visas to the US, because only immigrant visas require you to show that you are not going to become a public charge. So that's why it's only affecting immigrant visas. I know things are scary right now. I know a pause feels like a complete stop, but in immigration law, sometimes there is a way to get a secondary path to where you want to go. Whether it's a national interest exemption, shifting your strategy from filing at the embassy to filing adjustment of status in the US, that may be something that you need to explore to figure out what strategy would actually work for your situation. If you are from one of these 75 countries and you are worried about your pending case, or you're about to start filing your case and you're not sure what the heck to do, what is going on, and how to proceed. You want to figure out the strategy that will get you to where you need to be. Well, click the link in the description, go to my website, lilylegal.com, and schedule a consultation with me. This way we can look at your specific priority date, your specific situation, and figure out how to keep your case moving forward, whether you're subject to the 75 pause or if you're subject to the 39 country ban. We will figure out what you can do while this process is going on, while we're waiting for USCIS, the embassy, to lift these pauses.